The only shooting stick with one-handed trigger pull adjustments has a new way to keep you at the top of your game. The Trigger Stick Apex. Built for sturdy support that adapts to unforgiving terrain with easy adjustments to make your big shots. With our DuraSteady 3-piece carbon leg design and interchangeable rock-solid clamp, nothing tops the Apex. The Trigger Stick Apex, only from Primos.
If you hunt enough, you learn the truth. What you seek speaks a language and knows it well. That's why every Primos call for everything you hunt is made the right way. We sweat every detail so you get more out of every hunt, and nothing leaves our hand until we know it'll work in yours. Because we don't just make the world's best calls, we speak the language. Primos.
Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better public land hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this and who knows, maybe we will learn something together.
All right, folks, welcome back to the wild and wacky world of everything Clay and Luke. And Tim, welcome to this craziness that we call Publicly Challenged. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the show. And for everybody who doesn't know, you're a jerk. I'm not even going to bother trying to introduce him. Go back and listen to the other episodes. And we're going to roll with it. So, Tim, how you been?
Oh, I've been great. You know, summer in Minnesota, the best time of year.
So what's your biggest, shiny object right now this time of year? Like, what's got the ADD just, hyperfixating?
Oh, that's funny. Let's see. Today I was out harvesting Kentucky coffee pods for the huge peas inside.
Yeah, the old mastodon peas. You know what I find funny about that, though? It's so much work for them. I don't like to do them. Because I like the idea in my head. If somebody else prepares them for me, it's wonderful. But having to do that, change the water, do all the other things, and like I told you, I never took the outer layer off the pea, so it was like the outer one, and I ate it, and I'm fine. I'm here to speak about it, and I ate a pretty significant handful. So here we are.
Yeah, I crushed that outer coating too. A lot of people don't like it because it's all chewy. But the first time I ate it, I was like, I need to eat this too, just to make sure, in case whatever mystery toxin is in that part. Yep. So I ate 60 of them, and I didn't get any.
I didn't eat. I'd say probably 30 or 40 I ate, but I did not eat 60. Okay. Yeah, and it was so much work. I don't know if I'll ever do it again to get that 30 and 40. And do you have a method for this that makes it go faster?
Oh, I think it's probably just shucking peas or something like that. It's not that much more difficult.
The outer shell, I feel is so much thicker and tougher, though. You almost need a box knife and just slit them open or something.
Well, I've found to work really well. Are you talking about the big green pod or the shell?
The pod. Yeah.
Yeah, the pod. I just break it. So each little pea, I just break it into its own little section, and then just push it each individual pea right out. And that seems to go really quick. There might be a time towards the end of the season where they get tougher, and that might not be good.
They develop a real hard skin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it hasn't been
Tim,
difficult for me so far.
Are you picking these off of street trees, or
yeah.
are they? Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I know that there's kind of a bigger campaign to plant them as street trees around the country, or at least in Eastern North America.
Why is that, Clay? Why is that?
Because we don't have mastodons anymore to plant them. No.
I thought it was I thought you were going with something good, some type of conspiracy theory, they only wanted these trees because they can't propagate themselves and spread, and I don't know, some evil mastermind behind it. But that sounds stupid now. No, I'm just.
I'm sure there's something like that. Like they have
Nefarious behind it.
No. I mean, they do think about what they're doing when they put street trees in now. I
Do
mean,
they?
didn't
I mean,
used to.
did they with Bradford pears? Did they really,
No.
Yeah,
Clay?
do they?
Do
Well,
they
like,
though?
Bradford pear is, this is something I love to say to people all the time, but like Traverse City has Bradford pears down the whole street. Like the main drag of Traverse City is all Bradford pears, and they don't spread. They don't go anywhere.
And
They
other
just
ones do.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying is like it's all dependent on location. But
Do you think that
and
has to do with
obviously,
climate though? Like,
yeah, of course,
yeah.
and geology,
Okay.
because like up here, things that like some things that might spread where Tim's at probably wouldn't spread where I'm at,
Hmm.
and then vice versa. You know, like I doubt you guys have a problem with bladder campion.
Don't even
We
know if
do.
I've seen any.
Yeah.
You do
Yeah,
have
we have our campions are kind of out of control, but they're never like, they're always here and there. They
Mm.
won't like make dense stands that crowd other things out. But yeah, they're definitely kind of ever present.
Yeah. Well, we've got like it's like probably the number one weed in gardens here.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Really?
it's like,
That's cool.
yeah,
Mine
Yeah.
is amaranth everywhere.
yeah.
Yep.
Uh, yeah. But anyway, so back to the mastodon peas and the street trees. They are they native to where you're at, or is that just a street tree planting program?
I don't think they're native. And whether they would have been someday, like
Hmm.
the next geological time phase,
Yeah.
who knows? But what's weird about them is you can request them from the Minneapolis Forester, and they will put it in, which is unusual because typically any tree that drops anything is like forbidden. But they'll gladly plant these, and then like the northern catalpa, which drops a ton of pods too, like these
Yeah.
long, like cigar-shaped pods. So
Let's talk about
it's odd.
the idiots on TikTok telling people that you can trip by smoking them. Have you heard this?
No, I
So-
didn't even hear about it.
So I've got like 17-year-old nephew, and he's like, "Hey, he's like, do you have any Indian cigars? Indian cigar trees?" And I'm like, "Sure, all over the place." Yeah, and I said, "What about it?" And then I stopped, and then I didn't even think about it before or let him respond, and I said, "No, you cannot trip off of them. You cannot." And he's like, "What?" And I said, "Let me guess. You watched a TikTok video, and some idiot told you that you could smoke these and trip your balls off." And he goes, "Yeah, why?" And I go, "'Cause it's not true. It's a lie. People did this for likes and views, and people like you thought it was cool, and then it's not true at all." Yeah. So I mean, just stuff like that happens all the time. But I mean, maybe there's a compound in there but like when you smoke it, absolutely nothing happens. Because when I was a kid, we used to smoke them and pretend they were cigars.
You smoked them?
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
actually lit them ablaze?
Yeah. It doesn't do anything. It's just we thought it was cool. And my dad used to
So
do the same thing. He
that's
told
where
me.
it all went wrong.
Yeah, right.
Did you cut off both ends so like you could actually inhale the smoke, or
Yeah.
did you just have them lit on one end?
No, you actually smoke it. You just break off both ends, as they're kind of dried out, hanging on the tree, and then you smoke them, and nothing happens. It's really just kind of a mellow smoke, and it doesn't really do anything at all.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool though.
Yeah, we were kids, hanging out in the woods, or like on the edge of like an abandoned lot, and just being kids, thinking
Smoking
we were cool,
catalpa?
smoking. Yeah.
There's kind of a lot of that urban legend about things that are psychedelic. One that I really love is Sweet Flag. It's always like, oh, it's a psychedelic and you can eat a lot of it and trip, and it's like, man, I have chewed so much of that stuff.
Because
And,
that's the reason why you chewed a bunch of that stuff,
No,
or
no.
you just
No, I just chewed it because it's got a lot of history of giving you like that nice jitter-free energy.
Does it though?
Yeah, it does. It definitely keeps you awake. It's awesome stuff. And it definitely helps with sore throats and all that stuff, but I have never tripped on it.
Have you ever
That's an
used?
incredibly strong flavor, right? Like you
Oh,
chew.
it's got a terrible flavor. It numbs your whole mouth. And a lot of
Sam gave
people
me
say,
a little bite of that when we were driving down to Texas, and I was so tired on that trip that it's all a fever dream, and I barely remember it
uh-huh,
because Sam has more energy um,
yeah,
than 10 of me.
uh-huh.
But I do remember how strong that flavor was. But I was just like, I hope this saves me as I'm like leaning against the window, so tired.
And it didn't.
No,
Oh,
Yeah, he fell right
but
asleep.
a gas station burrito and a Rockstar Punch would.
what kind of saved me was eating Whataburger across from Sam Thayer. I was like, damn, this is incredible. Like,
Whataburger.
he eats real food.
He eats real food. That's funny.
Yeah.
You guys got Whataburger together?
Hell yeah, down in Texas, we had to.
That's so funny. Um, I was actually hitchhiking in Texas one time and hadn't eaten for like a day, and I was by myself, and the only option I had was some stranger bought me McDonald's. And I even at that time, this was like had to be like 20 years ago. I was like, oh, I don't want to eat McDonald's, and but I was like starving, and like somebody offered it to me, so I was like, okay, and I ate McDonald's. Yeah,
Yeah.
The truth comes out.
Too bad it wasn't
Yeah.
Whataburger.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're hungry and and you ain't got nothing else, man, it's perfectly good to eat like French fries with 77 ingredients.
How bad did your gut feel afterwards?
I mean, I'm sure it was fine. It seems like when you just don't eat a lot and then you eat like a little bit of food, it's good. It's like American guts, I think, are so messed up from just like constant eating. Like,
Mm. Mhm.
I mean, that's just kind of how I feel anyway. Like I notice that if I just wait a while and build up hunger, then I have less gut issues.
Nah, okay. All right. I just
I
meant
don't know.
like
I agree with that.
anytime I've ever eaten stuff like McDonald's, it's just wrecked me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, as a little
it's
kid, I used to eat it, but anytime in the most, recent whatever years, it just wrecks me. I don't even try with pretty much any fast food. I'll still do the
My,
Culver's occasionally, and it's about 50-50 on that.
what were you
my
gonna say,
foraging
Tim?
role model is raccoons. So I feel like they're like a really good generalist
Uh-huh.
forager. I was definitely raised on a lot of fast food, Hamburger Helper, all that stuff. So whatever my native microbiome is like mostly that. And it's only in like the last 10, 12 years that it's been impeded on by like all this weird stuff from outside.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll totally tank like a frozen pizza or like even Taco Bell doesn't touch me.
Wow,
Ugh,
that's
I can't-
impressive. Clay
I
hates
know.
Taco Bell. He worked there, so
Yeah, I can't do Taco Bell because I work there, and the smell. It's like how your sense of smell brings back memories. If I'm even near a Taco Bell, I'm like, just like, oh my God, it
was it
smells.
what made it so gross that you couldn't eat it when you worked there?
It just like everything came in a powder that you just like mixed hot water with it.
Even the
So
sour
like
cream?
the beans, I don't know, it was like the beans, the meat, with quotation
Now
marks.
that's kind of cool.
Uh,
I used to back in my drinking days. Oh, I used to smash the taco box. What was it, like 10 or 12 of them in the box at about 2 in the morning?
Oh
Oh,
my God.
so good.
Hell yeah.
Or a crave case.
What's a
I like to
crave
think of our ancestors being exposed to a crave case, and they would probably think it is the most calorie dense, digestible food. With like, I think they'd be amazed, and I think they would
Have
I think they'd
entertainment
fuck
the
it up.
next day, too, for sure.
Yeah, you wonder, is their microbiome strong enough to beat Taco Bell, or is Baja Blast killing an entire Paleolithic village?
So, yeah, no, the crave case, Clay, is the White Castle crave case
Yeah, okay.
of sliders. I think it's 50 sliders. And so, like, me and Buddy used to go cruise up and get a fry each and smash a crave case, 20, 25 burgers on the way home, eat some then on the way home, and smash them throughout the night, and then next thing you know, you're waking up the next morning and those onions are making their way out.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff though.
Tim, I'm with you though. Like I really do feel as though it's good. Like you definitely are like, oh, all my senses are lighting up, and I love this food. Like I just the other day I was hanging out with my whole family. My little sister is here from New York, and my brother, and we all got Little Caesars, which is just absolute garbage. You know, it's just like the worst pizza ever. But damn, did it taste good?
Oh yeah.
And it's just you know, not something that I want to do all the time. And that's something that you could think about too. Like, would your hunter gatherers like it if they were eating it every day? You know, or would they have like a lot of issues and probably get really fat, you know?
Well,
What if they loved it though? What if Ugg Ugg was like could not put it down? What if he thought the border fry? What if he got super mad that they discontinued the border fries and he showed up at a Taco Bell
in a Baja Blast?
And also, have we ever thought about what the Sumerians must think about like they domesticated wheat just for us to make Little Caesars?
Yeah, they domesticated wheat. They're eating like these like artisan loaves made in these like weird clay pots. Have you ever seen those? Like
yeah, right. Theirs was probably more advanced than us, and somehow the technology just got completely lost and destroyed. I mean, but if you think about it, like Sumeria was super advanced, and then technology over like just centuries completely vanished to where it's like we don't even know. It's non-existent. What if they had like, remember in Back to the Future Part 2 where it was the rehydrator and they had like the pizza and they just put it in there and it's like ding, but to us it looks like a clay pot because we don't know the technology that's missing from it.
Oh, true. And do you think like Nana, the moon god of the city of Ur, would accept a Little Caesars pizza as like a sacrifice or offering?
Ooh. I mean,
That'd be so cool.
I mean, it was what, olive oil and some of your best flour and stuff mixed together and burned. So why not?
That'd be tight. Meat lovers?
Meat lovers.
A nice meat lovers pizza from Little C's.
Yeah. What I'm actually most annoyed about though is that it was never historically pronounced Caesar, and it's like one of those things. It's hard for me to let go. I'll be like Little Caesars, but I know you're like looking at it and it's CA.
Little
and it's,
Caesars.
It's
Caesar.
It's supposed to be Kaiser. Yeah, like Julius Kaiser, and the word in German for king is Kaiser.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And Czar. Czar comes from Kaisar as well.
Okay.
Man.
But yeah, it's like you're everybody's just like sees that word and then they pronounce it wrong and then it just sticks.
It's also the Mexican word of the day.
Caesar?
How do you cut a little pizza? Little Caesars.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. The puns. Straight to jail.
Yeah. Hey, we're gonna start early on this one. Tim, what is the worst wild food that you've ever eaten in your life?
Cicadas. No.
I actually haven't eaten the cicadas yet. They're still in my freezer. Yeah, I know. That's a good question. Damn.
Every guest gets asked this question, so and
what have been some like past ones?
What'd you say?
What are some past ones that people have chosen?
Well, Chris Gavin just said muskrat, and then we had but Matt Norman said like there was some mushroom in England that he had eaten that had like left a taste in his mouth for like
days. It took away his taste to where all he could taste was that mushroom.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's been a lot of them. They're pretty good. Sometimes people say some pretty boring things, but it's
on a side note, Tim, you remember
funny.
that time you stabbed a pig with a spear? That was
I do.
Kind of random and cool. All right. So anyway, what's
Squirrel? So I would say it's actually. So I liked muskrat, but I would say it's got to be this beaver I got. Somebody trapped it, not naming any names, but like someone local trapped it, and then I picked it up. I'm not sure how it was handled before it got to me, so I was being risky. And they seemed to know what they were doing. And man, it was like a 46 pounds of meat. So it was processed
Wow.
already. And it was awful. And now there are like 3 foods total that I won't eat. It's like water chestnuts,
Love water
papaya
chestnuts.
salad,
That's
and
weird.
then now this beaver. I usually like leave room for like a third one just in case I'm not thinking of one. But man, that beaver was so bad. I don't know if it was rotten or they hit a scent gland or something, but wow.
So
I've had
wait,
beaver before too, and it was really good.
okay, so you picked up already processed beaver meat, or you
In
picked
winter,
up?
yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, they
It's
had to have
terrible.
they had to have hit a gland or something, or maybe like
Left a
it was like
gland
really,
in the meat, or I don't know, man.
Yeah, it was rough.
maybe the beaver had like really bad, scary dreams the night before it died.
So let's talk about this
There's-
papaya salad. What are we talking about there?
You know what? I don't know more about it. It's like common at Hmong restaurants and Thai restaurants here. And I only had it at one spot because it scarred me forever after that. But man, it's like green papaya salad, and I couldn't tell you what's in it, but it just did something to my mouth that I never want to happen again. And it could have been just that spot. They had good food otherwise, so I'm not sure what was going on there. But yeah, not good.
Interesting. Clay, you look like we're doing an interview of a drug dealer or something on like a Vice interview.
Oh, 'cause it's
We
so
just need to change your voice. Yeah. You're completely
Whoa.
shadowed out.
dark.
I'm sorry. That's so random, but I had to.
Of course, none of the listeners can.
Well, they will.
See.
They'll see it because I'm going to put this on social now.
You see my bare wall.
So that was
behind
the
me.
worst thing you ever ate.
Yeah, I think it's got to be. I think something else would jump out at me otherwise. There have been some stuff at potlucks that was regrettable, but I can't remember any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potlucks. The every potluck you go to, you notice how there's like almost always lentils.
Oh yeah, it's a hippie
Lentils
staple.
tear me up, dude. It's like a fiber
I always
overdose
thought that
or
was funny
something.
though. Now that we're talking about it though, I'm feeling like maybe I had an age of going to potlucks because I haven't been to one in a while, and I'm 41 now, and I'm wondering if maybe my age of potlucks is over because I
I
used
would
to
say
go to them
so.
all the
I
time.
don't do potlucks. And, like, even if there is one anymore, I don't do it because the whole gluten thing, number one. And number two, some folks are just straight up weird and dirty too. Like, I don't.
You cannot eat at everyone's house.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to do it. It reminds
I
me of
worked at a
like
junk
Kevin.
removal service briefly.
Like Kevin from The Office with the pot of chili. You know what I mean? Like just spilling it all over himself, and I don't want to do it.
So you worked at a junk removal service, you said?
Yeah, and we would do like clean outs and stuff. I did it for like a month and a half. And yeah, you cannot eat at everyone's house. I'm sorry. Like that's why I don't eat at potlucks, because if I don't know you like that, if I haven't been to your house, and yeah, can't do it.
All right, I'm going to totally switch gears here.
Switch
Tell
'em.
us about
What are we doing?
tell us about your buckthorn removal this year.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Well, I've been doing buckthorn removal with 2 groups here in Minneapolis. We got the Friends of Minnehaha Park, which it's the most commonly visited park in Minnesota. It's right in Minneapolis. It's a waterfall. It's Minnehaha Falls Waterfall.
Why do you keep laughing?
And
Why do you keep laughing after you say the name of the park?
No, why did you keep laughing? Minnehaha. He's
okay. Oh my God, Luke. Jesus Christ. There's a special place. There's a special place for people who make puns. So yeah, despite it being the most commonly visited park in the state, it didn't even have a volunteer group associated with it until last year. So it has something like tens of millions of visitors every year. But there was no volunteer group helping it. So we're removing buckthorn and like burdock and garlic mustard and everything else, and then also planting like wild plums, nannyberry, all this good stuff. It's pretty awesome. And then there's this group that works at a lake called Lake Harriet, and we're just going around. We just circle the lake perpetually all throughout the year and cut buckthorn at all times. And we're using this technique now. So there's this new technique that the University of Minnesota has come out with. It's called critical period cutting. And so it's a cut only method. And so it kind of saves your back. It saves your volunteers from getting, eaten up by using that buckthorn wrench or trying to pull things out of the ground. And it's chemical free. So you cut 3 times a year for at least 2 years, leaving the cut stumps at like 3 or 4 feet tall. So there's no bending over or anything. And we'll see. I'll let you know in like 2 or 3 years how it goes.
And you're just straight cutting them or girdling them or what?
Yeah, just cutting. Because the idea is apparently you want it like you cut everything, so it's just like a stick now sticking up out of the ground, but you don't girdle it because you want it to send out branches as much as possible from that cut to exhaust the root system. And the idea is that you cut it these 3 times a year and you don't let it, you basically keep it in an energy deficit for those years, and you kill the root system without pulling it out.
So you're pollarding.
Yeah.
Like what a pollard is? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's a pollard, Clay? Let's start with that.
A pollard is like it's an old way that people used to do willows for basketry, which, I mean, any tree that you can coppice, you can do a pollard. So you're cutting it at some specific height, and usually pollards were cut to be above the browse line of goats or cows.
Okay.
Because anytime you cut willow, that new growth is going to be really appetizing to goats and cows. And so they would have their basketry willow at a place where they couldn't do it. So they'd have these tree stumps. Sometimes they would be these mega, like depending, they could be like, 2 feet across, and just like putting out tons and tons of new fresh growth for baskets.
Okay.
And that's a pollard.
And why, Tim, why is buckthorn so bad?
Buckthorn's bad because it's destroying our ecology in Minnesota. It invades and crowds out habitat, and outcompetes our native species. And then a lot of people say that it exudes a chemical in the soil called sinigrin that kills native fungi and prevents seeds from germinating. The evidence on that is like kind of wishy-washy. More people, more studies need to be done. But yeah, I mean, you go to any forest in Minnesota, like within 2-3 hours of Minneapolis, and the understory is just absolutely taken over by buckthorn. And then you get up north and we have a native buckthorn. So who knows? I'm not sure if it outcompetes that like by hybridizing with it, or it might just put it at risk because people think our native one is the non-native one too. So there's it's a complicated issue.
I've only seen one patch of buckthorn, and it wasn't really that crazy. I mean, it's there, but I don't know. It's not that bad. But honeysuckle, honeysuckle destroys everything around here.
Yeah, I think one of the history about honeysuckle too is kind of interesting. Apparently, they like early black walnut farmers would plant honeysuckle around their black walnut seedlings to make them grow straight up. So they're planting honeysuckle on purpose.
I do have a lot of black walnuts too, and a lot of honeysuckle. So,
I noticed, and maybe you guys don't have the same thing, but there's tons of just old abandoned apple trees all around here, and all old abandoned apple trees have one or multiple honeysuckles underneath of them. It's like I just make the association in my head naturally because I'm like, I don't, it's like I see it so often. I'm like, oh, honeysuckle under an apple. It's like it kind of makes me think like, we had Tom Wessels on here and he was talking about young ecological interactions and old ecological interactions. And like things that are invasive are young ecological interactions. So they haven't had a time to actually develop that relationship yet. But once they do, they'll start to kind of like form these connections together, and then they become these like communities that are very, very tight knit, but they're also like really, really easy to disturb because they rely so heavily on one another. I don't know. It was a very fascinating podcast. And he's a really. Do you know who Tom Wessels is?
No, but I got to listen to that one now.
Okay, yeah. But he's got a book called "Reading the Forested Landscape" and all these things like that. But yeah, like honeysuckle and buckthorn, they're all like young ecological interactions, So like they're very destructive and there's no like one of the things that I remember him talking about, and I've since noticed it, was that when you look at like a grapevine or Virginia creeper, it like won't go like fully over the top of a tree, but like Oriental bittersweet will just like completely engulf a tree because like they kind of haven't had that time yet to like make that agreement with one another, like, hey, you can climb up me, but like you can't climb all the way to the top,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think like the stepwise process of how that develops. I also like to think this kind of touches on like invasion biology, like like I like to talk about how Minnesota looked, even just say 7,000 years ago, right? The glaciers had just barely retreated, and our landscape probably looked something more like Iceland does today, like very rocky, bare, and then transition to something like kind of open marsh and whatnot. And we had like giant beavers and stuff, right? That was Minnesota's ecology. And you ask any culture that was living in Minnesota at that time for thousands of years, like what Minnesota was and what the plants were, and they'd be like, this is it. And then if you ask people in 5,000 years, it's totally different. Now we have like oak trees and birch and whatnot. And so that's what Minnesota is. And that's going to change. Like, on a human life scale, I am like an enemy of buckthorn and I want to destroy it and take it off the landscape. But I know that it will outlive me. It'll outlive my bloodline. It's here to stay. And then in 100 million years, when all the continents get together again and make another Pangea, like it's going to be pandemonium again too. So there is like a slight myopia you have to have if you're like a native plant enthusiast, where you want to keep these refuges open for native plants, but at the same time, nothing is in stasis. Humanity is not a long-lived enough species to actually shepherd these species forever.
Yeah. Well said, dude. That was that was actually something I was going to ask you about because I like you said, you nailed it. I mean, one of the things that actually bothers me about invasion biology is the looking at a moment in time and being like, this is how it's supposed to be, and like you said, imagine staying where you're at right now and then being transported to like 1,000,000 years in the future, and let's say that humans are still there. Wouldn't it be funny if they were like battling maples? Or like, there's maples.
Could be.
Yeah, totally.
Or like, there's wild rice growing in these lakes.
For real. I mean, think of like the ecology that existed prior to, when the Laurentide ice sheet, when it was covering, much of North America, like the ecology that existed south of that only existed like during that time. And there was associations that had never happened before and will never happen again. And as the ice sheet retreated, you had probably like 1,000-year chunks that had these like unique ecosystems that will have never existed and will never exist again. Because they had their unique associations. I mean, it's really fascinating to think about, and then it makes you realize that the human snapshot that we get is truly a blink. And then even our entire civilization in general, like, the past 30,000 years is an absolute blink.
So, can you name a few of these weird associations?
Well, there was that that spruce tree that they believe went extinct. It's like the only tree species in North America that has gone extinct. And it was like I'm going to butcher this, but it's like a subtropical spruce or something like that, or like a temperate spruce. And it like flourished. Like it really figured out, like it was like the ice sheet coming south made like all of the southern United States perfect for it. And it was absolutely everywhere. It was like the tree of the glacial period. And then once, because it adapted to getting pushed south, but then when the ice cap retreated, it was like, oh, I actually can't go back the other way now, and I'm fucked. So, and then it died, and then like we don't find it again. Now, there is research, maybe like people are misidentifying it or something. That's always possible, but there's good evidence to say that, like, yeah, that spruce tree might have went extinct despite being so successful.
I know that there's those cool examples where you'll see like there'll be like a stand of birch that's like in some remote mountain, and it's like only in that spot because they say that, like the birches retreated and then like they kind of left and they got stuck there, and they'll be like hundreds of miles in all directions. There's not a single birch.
That's fascinating.
I know.
Yeah, it tells such a story.
Yep, that's very cool. Did you know that the Upper Peninsula of Michigan shares a weird thing that it has what are they, thimbleberries, and then thimbleberries exist in the Upper Peninsula, a little bit in Bayfield Peninsula of Wisconsin, and then they jump to the Black Hills and then to the West Coast.
Knives, machetes, saws, and shears, multi-tools, shovels, swords, axes, spears, hatchets, and tomahawks. If it cuts, snips, slices, or chops, Midway USA has it. Find great gift ideas in our huge selection of pocket knives and other everyday carry folding knives. Make a statement or create a family legacy with one of our top-of-the-line hunting knives. We've got a great selection of manual and electric sharpeners, too. For just about everything for the outdoors, check out MidwayUSA.com.
That's like, how did that happen?
Yeah, they're so delicious too, man. I wish they were down in Minneapolis.
So you have eaten the thimbleberries?
Yeah. So actually, funnily enough, so they do grow up near Grand Marais, like the Boundary Waters in Minnesota. But the first time I ever had one was on a trip to the Tetons, and found a really nice patch of those. And my friends wanted to go for a 10-mile hike, and they couldn't get me out of the patch. So I converted them into foragers. So we did like a 5-mile hike, and we picked huckleberries and thimbleberries for the rest of the time.
So what's a thimbleberry taste like?
Like a sour raspberry? No.
Yeah, I mean, even better than a raspberry. It's sour, but just whatever sugar balance it has in there is absolutely perfect for that sourness. Oh man, I love them.
Okay,
they're good. What I get confused about with thimbleberries is they you'll find patches sometimes and there's not a single berry in the whole patch. And you're like, what's up with this? Why? Where's the berries?
Did the bears eat the berries?
No, I'm saying like so I actually there are like a few remnant stands of thimbleberries down here. Like I don't live in the Upper Peninsula, and we've got whole patches that I'll watch for years and never see a single berry. And I'm like, how are these things even here?
Is that kind of like me with the autumn olives? Like, is it something to do with not needing to reproduce or compete?
No, I mean that is just a theory of mine.
I like your theory though, because it makes sense. Although this year, I've seen more than I've seen as far as autumn olives, which is very strange. But
Tim, you guys are too cold for autumn olives, right?
I think they're like really sporadic, but I think we are too cold. We get Russian olive like crazy though. I've noticed it more than ever this year.
I've never eaten a Russian olive. We have one gigantic Russian olive in town here, and I've looked at it for years as I've driven by it. And I'm like, I gotta try eating that stuff one of these years. I've never done it.
The fruits kind of blend in with the leaves. They're kind of similar colored with those little white spots or whatever. So I only happened to be by one because I was looking for a shagbark hickory grove that was supposed to be on the side of this highway. I couldn't find it. But then in someone's yard, there was this Russian olive, and man, they taste like they're like, how did I say this? The consistency is like cotton candy, and they taste like cotton candy. It's really weird. They're like foamy.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so good or not good?
They're
Sounds
really good.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like light and fluffy like foam, and then it tastes like cotton candy. They're so good.
I'm going to seek out Russian olive now.
Yeah, and would you? I mean, you had one encounter.
Yeah, just that one encounter so far.
Okay.
So it could have been an awesome tree too.
Yeah, I was gonna say because like autumn olives, I mean, they can be like
Nail
terrible.
polish remover. Like,
Yeah, they can be like god awful or like really really good.
yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of I wonder if they're both Eleagnes. So like I wonder if they are similar. Luke, you said autumn olives are good by you, huh?
I'm just saying this year is the first year I've even seen, because like most of the time you've got the autumn olive and there's no fruit on them, and it's just weird they don't like produce. And then this year it's like every 10 trees I see one that's actually producing this year. So something's going on, and I like it because I'm going to try and eat some. I tried one the other day and it was still tasted terrible. So we're going to try again here in a couple days and watch. I'll go back and then they'll just all be gone already. But birds and whatever, we'll see.
Yeah, that's something we never have a shortage of. We can harvest them from now until December.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot here. It's just like really funny. Tim, you were saying, or we were talking a little bit about like what's invasive, and this area has like some big invaders, and they're, as I said, bladder campion, autumn olive, buckthorn on near water only, and then the other one is star thistle, spotted knapweed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The honey people love it though, because bees will produce more honey on star thistle than any other flower. So they renamed it so that they didn't have to sell spotted knapweed honey.
Starflower honey. Wow, marketers, man, they are undefeated.
Wow, yeah. So my friend, his wife, got a hive, I guess last year, and this year she just harvested her first batch of honey and got like 15 gallons of honey or something like that. And I got a jar of it and I took a spoonful of it and my wife goes, "Is it citrusy?" You know, they keep saying it's citrusy, and I was like, I don't know about citrus, but I straight up taste like they got into some serious amount of mint. And it's kind of cool though, because like a minty honey, like just straight up put that in some teas and some different stuff and it'll be pretty good.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that it tasted so minty. But it does. It definitely does.
How
Tim,
are those? Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh no, you say what you were saying.
Just real quick. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but how do you limit a bee to like a certain kind of flower, or like how is it decided whether it's a basswood flower, honey, or something like that? Do they just go by flavor and whatever is dominant? They're like, oh, this is this, or like, are you able to keep bees to like a certain species?
So I do know that, which I found super fascinating when I found this out, but I was talking to a guy that had bees and honey, and he had a semi-trailer, and then somebody else told me that they know somebody that has a semi-trailer, and all the hives are in the semi, and they take it to like all the citrus groves, and they get hired, they get employed to pollinate, and they just take their semis and then let the bees loose and let them go, and they pollinate all the different citrus groves, and then also all the vineyards out in like Napa Valley and stuff like that. That's a big market to hire people to take these bees and pollinate all the different stuff. So, I mean, I imagine if it was like a big grove of basswoods or something that you could actually kind of say, yeah, I release them in this area. This is the dominant, flower that they're pollinating, and that's the dominant flavor of it. Yeah, I suppose that would work.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I will say that my garden this year is massive, and I planted a bunch of buckwheat for like purposes of soil amendments.
Mhm.
And holy crap, I can't believe how popular those flowers are with pollinators. I mean, and I'm not talking honeybees. I'm talking like every kind of pollinator imaginable, and then plus the honeybees. And I was like just shocked. Like I've had buckwheat growing all year, all summer in like different patches, and every single time they start flowering, it's just like hundreds and hundreds of different insects flying all over it.
My buddy
hell yeah.
planted buckwheat. He tore up a lot of his like a tract that he had in his timber, and just decided he was going to put something so the soil just didn't erode away, and planted a huge patch of buckwheat. And the deer and turkey and everything just flocked to it. It was kind of cool to see.
Bunch of Russian people.
Russian.
I like buckwheat. I like buckwheat flour.
You know, we have here we have the small elk herd. We've got about
oh yeah,
I think we've got like 1,600 to 2,000.
The one that you'll never get a tag for, Clay.
One that I'll never get a tag for.
Yeah. How's that make you feel?
I don't. Whatever. I'll just keep applying. Hopefully, I'll get it. Anyway, the elk, they do these fields full of buckwheat for the elk. So the DNR actually just plants 5-acre fields like in the middle of the woods, and they're just
awesome.
like, here you go, elk.
And they love it, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do.
Nice.
I saw the one and only occasion when we saw 4 bull elk here in Michigan. Me and my family were out picking chanterelles a few years ago, and there was one of those fields of buckwheat, and there was 4 bull elk hanging out in the field. Right.
That's cool. Were they big, massive bulls?
Oh yeah, huge.
Didn't you just want to jump the fence and just take a bite out of one of them?
There was no fence. It was just a field.
Oh, well, that's even cooler.
Yeah, and you can see their poop in the woods sometimes when you're picking chanterelles around there.
Nice. I want to spear an elk.
I want to spear an elk.
I do. Badly. Just
they can spear back.
Just sit right over a wallow, right on top, and just wait. And then when one comes in and starts wallowing on the ground, and just spear it. Yeah. So cool.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So Tim, are you heading out to do any shagbark hickory foraging then?
Yeah, I typically do it during the Midwest Wild Harvest Festival time is when it's lined up for me well, but I think this year might be really early, so I might have to get down there before. But yeah, I go down to southern Minnesota, Iowa to do that. I'd like to, but it's not something I really do a lot of. I've gotten, I don't know, probably lifetime 5 gallons. So not a lot. Love it though. That hickory milk is incredible.
Absolutely.
I need to do that. Make the milk with the now I'm drawing a blank, but the choke cherries.
Yeah, we got no choke cherries this year.
Last year we didn't have any, and this year I was out in the yard and I was looking, and I was like, "Holy crap! There's going to be a lot of them." And what I need to do is get the dry Vitamix container. I think because I destroy a lot of other stuff trying to blend things up like that. My wife gets mad at me all the time because I'm breaking stuff.
You got to get that dry container. It's a game changer. Yeah. I can do straight up uncrushed hickory nuts in that, or hackberries, or I mean anything. It crushes everything.
My wife got super mad at me. I broke her food processor. Well, I didn't break it, but I stained it with a bunch of ramps in there and everything, and the color is just that green, looks like algae all the time now.
Tim, when you're saying you do hickory nuts, you don't crack them first to see if they're good?
Oh, no, I guess I don't. No, I do crack some. I mean, I've cracked them and then I've not cracked them. Kind of do like the float thing and then see if they're like visibly messed up. But also maybe I'm just bad at hickory nut milk. So who knows?
There's nothing wrong with eating a weevil in your milk.
It's not the weevil. It's so when you have shagbark hickories or pig nuts or whatever, occasionally you will come across one that's like pure black and just like putrid and moldy on the inside. And Sam has warned against in his book, and I don't know the veracity of it. I just know that it's something that I do now. Every single nut I crack. And
okay.
And
that seems
probably
time
like,
consuming.
Yeah, but if you're making hickory nut milk, you only need, a bowl. It takes like 10 minutes. Just crack them.
They're pretty quick to crack too. Just hit them with a hammer. They're not like black walnut where it's insane.
The goody getter, Grandpa's goody getter for the black walnuts though is a game changer. It really is.
What an unfortunate name.
Yeah,
that's what the dude named it. That was I'm Grandpa. This is my goody getter. I don't know.
It kind of sounds like it could be like a.
It could be a lot of things. It could be a lot of things.
Yeah, it could definitely be a lot of things.
Well, that's like the catfish bank poles, though. You know what they call those? They don't call them bank poles. Anywhere in the South, they call them diddy poles.
Diddy poles.
Baby, we putting out some diddy poles tonight. That's
Are you saying Diddy?
Diddy.
Like P. Diddy?
Yeah, like P. Diddy. We putting out diddy poles.
Oh, no. Now you got to say no Diddy.
No Diddy.
Every
no
time
Diddy.
You say your Diddy pole.
Yeah. So that's what I mean, like there's some weird names for some things, but so maybe goody getter, Grandpa, I don't know. Poor Grandpa. Although I have seen they've actually they've never done marketing in their life. And like this year I saw like one ad pop up and I was like, wow, good for them finally getting into the game, because if they actually marketed it, I think they'd do a lot better.
Oh, of course. Marketing is everything.
Do you own one, Luke?
I do own one. My mom bought me one for Christmas one year. I was like, this is the greatest present ever. Because she saw me on the garage floor sitting just like cross-legged and like just whacking a bunch of black walnuts. And she's like, wow, isn't there an easier way to do it? And I was like, I think there is some cracker. I think it's like Grandpa's something or rather. She found it and bought it for me for Christmas.
Wow.
Game changer.
Tim, have you used it?
Never used it. Not lucky enough. I got to get one.
I've gotten to where it's almost an entire hole, like 2 whole halves together. And you just like clip with the clippers in between. Like one corner was broke off of one once. That's my record on how good it is.
What's your record?
Yeah.
I saw a video that had Alan Burgo using one, and it looked amazing.
Yeah, they are.
I've never used one.
Clay, if you come down, you can use it. You can borrow it even.
Right.
I don't care. I don't crack that many black walnuts to even justify really owning it, but here we are.
I recently bought black walnut ice cream from the store.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Because I was like, and actually, it was really not good.
Oh, that's disappointing.
No. No, I'm saying like it tasted so black walnutty, like unbelievably so. Like even my kids who've grown up eating black walnuts, they were like, wow, that is like very strong black walnut flavor. But it somehow managed to like have that flavor, but also just like taste really bad.
Have you tried that black walnut protein?
Oh,
no, have you? You have, right?
Yeah, I bought some of it, and I like it. I especially like it mixed with like a scoop of some other protein, vanilla or chocolate. It's so good. But I also really love black walnut flavor, and my identical twin hates it. So I don't know.
Haha, good for you. It's more for you.
So Theo doesn't like it, eh?
No, Theo does not enjoy some black walnuts.
He could
now, though. He always changes his diet. I mean, he just recently got back into milk and dairy after like it almost killing him for like a decade, and now he just takes it straight to the dump. So he could be coming around on black walnuts. I should try.
It's one of the funniest things that he like when we were all down in Texas. I still to this day get a chuckle thinking about him saying how when you guys were growing up, he always tried to one up you with eating everything, and now he's like legitimately like, what is he, like an inch taller than you or something?
Yeah, he's an inch taller, and he's like naturally, I'd say he probably rests at like 10 pounds heavier than me, like when we're lean and athletic. So yeah, he did it. He made it happen.
I know, it's just like, it's like, what a funny thing to think as like a young child, like I'm going to like be bigger than my brother who is my twin.
And then to put in a decade of daily work to do it.
He's
This
like,
extreme dedication.
I'm not really hungry right now, but I'm going to eat this extra piece of pizza.
That's exactly what he would do. Or like enchiladas. He'd be like, oh, you had 6? Well, I'm going to have my 7th. Like,
nice.
I remember him always doing that too.
Oh man, that's so funny.
Good for him.
Yeah. So, you got classes coming up? What's on the radar for you, Tim?
Yeah, totally. I teach classes, outdoor classes from May through September, and then like in the wintertime, I teach presentations. But yeah, I got classes within an hour of Minnesota. I mean, in Minneapolis. That's kind of like my home base because that's where everybody lives in Minnesota. And like we all live in Minneapolis. Like 80% of our population lives within an hour of Minneapolis. So, I'm trying to triage all Minnesotans and teach them about wild foods. So I do have classes coming up. Mushroom classes, plant classes. And it's going well. I meet a lot of really cool people.
When you do a class, what do you how long are you teaching for? Do you I was just discussing this with somebody else earlier, so I'm just trying to gauge. Are you doing like 2-hour classes?
Yeah, I started doing 3-hour classes and then I dropped them down to 2 because I found that even so people really want to learn and they think they want to learn everything at once. And initially I thought I wanted to teach everything at once too, but so we'd all be like really high energy, really excited, but then we'd fall apart towards the end of class, right? Like people just wouldn't be able to learn anymore. So I dropped it down to 2 hours because I think, I don't know, I heard on a podcast or something like there's an hour and a half window that's like your best learning period, and then you need a break. So that's kind of what I do now. I keep it fun and flirty while trying to pack as much info as possible in there.
Yeah. When I first started teaching foraging classes, I did 4-hour classes.
Dude,
damn.
And I remember the looks in people's eyes. They'd just be like, and I had like people just dropping out, just walking away. I was like, okay, I got to shorten these things.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. People seem happier when you do less time.
Like, totally. And they are more likely to see it as something that's doable and something that is, especially because we're mostly talking to beginners, right? Or we're mostly talking to people who are like dabbling in foraging or trying to up a skill in a certain thing you're teaching. So they're not ready to have it be their whole life. Just like at one point we weren't, right? Like we didn't come into the world fully formed wanting to do this. I came to it really late. So yeah, I like to just make it a really good experience every time for everybody involved. And then it's really started paying dues. People that I taught 4 years ago are now saying they're like harvesting wild rice now. They like bought a canoe and a pole, and I'll see them out on the ponds and stuff. And they're like, you changed my life. Foraging changed my life. I didn't know what it was going to be, but now it's, now they've taught their grandkids or their friends. And that's the power of foraging in general and giving it time and planting a good seed.
Yeah.
Nice.
Man, that's super cool. Are you gonna be doing any racing this year?
Hopefully. Yeah. I mean, I'm like kind of the mercenary pole guy. So anybody who needs me to pull the canoe, I'm down.
I could always use a good puller.
You're not into knocking?
I've only done it once actually. And I was low key pretty nice at it, not to toot my own horn, but I think I do prefer pulling.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, because I feel like it's, I like to just be a workhorse. There's something mindless about it that I can just fall into this flow state when I need, because, growing up an athlete and everything, I just like to exert myself. And nowadays, I think the hardest workout I get is poling a canoe through really tall rice. I'm 215 pounds. Then I got my person that I'm with, and then we have however much rice we have, and it is it's insane. That's the hardest workout all year for sure.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, last year I was out there in Minnesota with Gil, and we had or you guys had, I should say, that really, really droughty kind of summer. So like every lake we visited was like low water, and the canoes like rubbing on the freaking
muck,
the muck on the bottom. And yeah, I was and then Gil had like some arm injury or something and didn't want to push pull. So like I ended up push pulling for like 4 straight days.
Oh my God.
Forearms looking like Popeye over there.
and
torn rotator cuff, no big deal.
And then we broke a duck bill, and then we broke my fork on my push pull, and then I put some ghetto like oak limb on the end of mine and used that.
And it worked great. See?
It worked okay. We made do. But
what the heck's a duck bill? What are you talking about here with this duck bill?
Well, duck bill is an implement that you use that when you pull up, it goes like this, and then when you push down, it opens up. So for those listening, it's a closing. It's like two lines.
We got like finger joints in there. What do we got controlling this? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little thing so that it basically doesn't collect debris as you're pulling up, and then as you push down, the pressure of the water opens it up and it spreads out, and then it grabs a hold of the muck.
For sure. Okay.
And there's a lot of debate in the ricing community as to whether a duck bill is a good thing or if a fork is better. What do you use, Tim?
I've only ever used the duck bill.
Okay. You know what's kind of funny is like, so Minnesota's had wild rice forever. You guys never lost your wild rice heritage. Michigan is experiencing like a native renaissance of like wild rice, and there's like all this stuff, and all the native people are just like woo excited, and it's really cool. But like they talk so much crap about duck bills and all this stuff, but then they don't realize that like even the native people in Minnesota will often be using like duck bills and all these things. But like I've been told by people here in Michigan, you know, that, oh, you can't use a duck bill because it tears up the rice. And I'm like, well, boy, I've got to tell you something,
fella.
There's a lot of people using duck bills in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and they are a lot of them are natives.
So
it's kind of. Do you think that's kind of like the blueberry rake thing, where people hate the blueberry rake because they think it's destroying the plant?
Oh yeah, yeah. The blueberry rake thing is ridiculous. Is there traditional use? Like I think I've seen something about how there may have been some implement that a long time ago people used.
I was actually going to look into that. That was going to be one of my winter rabbit holes, but I feel like there might have been one that just has like one slit in it. It's more like you just. Yeah, anyway, I'm at the risk of talking out my butt. I'm going to just stop myself there. But yeah, I'm going to look into that for sure, because there must be.
The blueberry rake is
yeah, they didn't finger pick berries. I mean, if
well,
you're
sure
looking, well, I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm saying at some point they were like, hey, there's an easier way to do this. We can, optimize our harvest here and maximize our yields by just doing it a lot quicker. And they would think about it. That's what separates us from everything else is our ability to make tools and use them. Although they're starting to. It's starting. Primates are starting to use the tools, make tools.
Well, good. It's their turn.
It is their turn.
Anyway, so the thing with the blueberry rakes, though, what is your experience? Like, what do people do? What do they say? Is there the ever present it's illegal where you harvest?
Oh no. I go out somewhere that's so remote that like my truck can barely drive on the roads. I've like never seen anybody else out there. And if someone did drive by on like an ATV, they drove by once, it was like a family, they just waved. So I've never had like the intense blueberry interactions that it seems like a lot of people out east do. So.
Well, no, I mean, I guess what I meant was online. So I'll show people blueberry rakes in my Instagram, and then you'll get these comments of people saying, those are illegal to use in Michigan. And it's like there's actually not a single rule anywhere in any law book saying that they're illegal. It's just that it's like an urban legend.
I just had one person on Instagram say that and I'm not even sure if they actually said fully that it hurts the plant. I think they maybe just alluded to it. I can't remember the comment now, but I'm like, this entire area sets on fire. It's not.
Yeah,
they're gonna be fine, and in fact, they would love that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. People really, they get crazy ideas about plants sometimes.
For sure.
I had a lady one time who wanted me to, on her property, make sure I didn't bend any of the stalks of bracken fern. And she had, acres of bracken fern. And I had to be very careful not to bend or break any bracken fern. And I was like, oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, I can't fault people for loving plants. Sometimes the love though takes up all the room for like any sort of knowledge of the plant too.
Mhm.
So, which is kind of cool. I mean, that's like an unconditional love. They don't even know about the plant; they just love it. So that is cool, and I do admire that. But then sometimes when you are trying to interact with them, that naturally breaks the fantasy, and then like you actually have to interact with this thing that you essentially worship, and then people can get weird about their plants for sure.
Yeah. The back to the blueberry rakes though, the biggest thing that I would say is that you shouldn't use them if the berries are not universally ripe yet. Because one thing I'll see is that people will use rakes and they'll just get like crap tons of unripe berries. And that's
And
not
then
good
what do
for
you
any.
do?
Well, then you can put them in water and the good ones will sink and then the unripe ones float.
Yeah, but what are you going to do with unripe ones?
I mean, they're full of pectin. They do have a little bit of blueberry flavor. You could mix them in with to make like blueberry jam. But like it's wasteful, You should think about there's like chipmunks and squirrels and all the other animals that like blueberries, and you just took away like all that opportunity.
Now I want to eat a chipmunk that's been eating a bunch of blueberries.
So Tim, I saw your blueberry harvest and it looked like you were definitely getting full ripe like scoops. So looks pretty awesome.
What about those apples the other day, Jim? It seems like you were kind of are you early to the game on the apples or they were really ripe already?
Longtime followers will know that was a repost.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I've sold out.
The mods weren't watching, so go ahead and just let's put whatever we want up there.
Yeah, I actually went and checked that tree again because it's supposed to be like an every other year tree. Not a single apple this year, so that's actually weird. It was supposed to be an on year, and we've been super wet, so I don't know what's going on there. It looks like it might be dying. I think the people that live there don't like that tree. But, yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of apples there?
Oh, a ton. They're absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, same thing here.
It's good.
It's pretty.
I like it.
I know, it's amazing. We could like 1 year I actually weighed them and I think we got like 400 pounds of apples.
What did you do with 400 pounds of apples?
Applesauce, dried apples. I think we made cider, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you're doing cider, that probably goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's a lot of apples.
But anyway,
dude.
man, I don't want to take up like too much more of your time. So obviously like you're a repeat guest and I think most people know, but for those that don't know, how do we get a hold of you, Tim?
For sure, yeah. So my name is Tim Clemens. You can find me at Ironwood Foraging online, or my Instagram is at MNForager, like Minnesota Forager. And yeah, you can come for the memes, stay for the foraging knowledge. And I have a blog on my website, ironwoodforaging.com, where I eat some pretty random stuff sometimes. So you can check that out.
Nice. Oh,
Your
wait.
memes are so funny.
Now that you've said that, Tim, what were the effects of the vomiting mushroom?
Oh, good question, Luke. So I was excited to eat Chlorophyllum molybdites, the vomiter mushroom, and I prepared them a certain way. Read the blog if you want to know. But they were delicious and nothing happened.
What? This
Darn
is
it.
crap.
I know.
Well, Luke's getting his grandpa coughing.
Okay. Well, Tim, it was great talking to you. It's awesome having you on. Thank you so much for coming.
I love being on. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, dude. Talk to you next time.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.